So, a video on a topic and product that I never really expected to make one on. Now, I've mentioned in a couple of other videos on this channel that I recently did a gig where I filmed a teens rock school concert of sorts. And one of the deliverables, along with some promos to those that run the actual program, were full-length versions of the sets for each of the parents and kids that wanted to have a copy. Now, it just so happens that in this case, it was decided that USB thumb drives and flash drives would be the main vehicle for delivering these. But regardless, I was going to need to look into purchasing some thumb drives en masse that would be good for this purpose. Specifically, a thumb drive that could hold a 21 to 27-ish gig 4K H.264 encoded video file, be able to play it back relatively smoothly, and would be durable and reliable enough to at least copy this on there, transfer it, and get it to the parents in a reasonable time. Now, worth noting, I'm someone that will generally pay a little bit more to get something that I think is better. I'm a big fan of SanDisk flash drives, and I've used them for a number of years. And certainly if you're delivering something to a single client, splurging to get a slightly better drive, or a slightly faster drive, say USB 3 versus 2, or a higher capacity drive, can make a lot of sense. However, when you're talking in the realm of needing to buy 30 of these, then you have to really consider cost at that point. Simply put, you can do the math on drives that are out there, but trying to purchase any of the better and name brand ones at scale will eat into cost considerably, and depending on what your margins are for something like that, it might not be the most economical option. So I ended up looking into, well, a bunch of the no-name budget flash drives that are out there. Now, I came across the JBOS or JBOS 32 gig variant of their flash drive. They actually make a bunch of different capacities, I believe as small as 512 megabytes, well into the hundreds of gigabyte range. They also make USB 2 versus USB 3 variants. I ended up going with the USB 2 variant in this case, and decided to purchase a few packs of these en masse. Now, I could get these 32 gig drives in a pack of 10 for a little over $30, meaning just for a hair over $3 a drive, this was actually pretty affordable compared to, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 or more for getting individual drives or figuring out some of the other more name brand packs that SanDisk and others offered. Now, these drives themselves come in pretty nondescript packaging. They're a very kind of standard design. They do have a metal cover that will protect the USB Type-A connector. And one thing I do actually appreciate is the fact that that metal cover actually acts as a good place if you want to label these drives or write on them, which is what I did in my case, essentially abbreviating them with the different band name given the day of the week that they practice and rehearse on. Now, in my own personal speed test, these drives averaged around 2 to 3 megabytes a second in terms of write speed. So yes, they will take a little bit of time to get the files on there, and around 23.5 or so read speed. And this read speed is really key here because in terms of the content and what I was storing on it, this would be adequate for something like that. And similarly related, these drives took around, let's say, a half an hour, maybe a little bit more to copy each of these 21, 24, 27-ish gig files onto there, which again, I would say is about expected given the speed it runs at. Now, maybe the most surprising thing about these drives was the fact that, well, I purchased a total of 30 of them, and 30 out of 30 of these functioned perfectly and exactly as expected. Now, as someone that works in the IT field and actually at one point worked in a help desk that used to purchase thumb drives en masse, I got pretty accustomed to always expecting some percentage of these to come dead on arrival. But the fact that this no-name brand could actually be that reliable was definitely impressive. Now, in terms of long-term reliability, that is something I necessarily can't speak to, and I would certainly say if you have any experience with these drives or any questions about that, feel free to leave a comment below, because I'm sure I'll hear about the long-term reliability for better or worse in the long run. Let's see. Alright, how's it going? Editor Andrew here, and I figured I would just provide a quick update since it's been around a month and a half or so since I recorded the talking head for this video, and there are a couple of updates worth reporting on with regard to these drives that would be relevant for this. So number one, it's been at least a good solid month or so since all of the drives have been distributed with the files on them to the parents, and much like I reported earlier in the video, there have continued to be zero issues or problems reported with them from anyone, so I guess another good sign and vote of confidence in terms of these JBOS or JBOS drives holding up maybe in the slightly longer run at least. And then for number two, this is actually a recurring gig that happens around every 4 months or so. So I'll actually be going through this editing and file distribution process again for a concert that I just filmed not too long ago. And given how well these drives worked and held up the first time around, I will be going with them yet again. So just figured I'd provide a couple of quick updates that were relevant while I could. Now back to your regularly scheduled video. So with all of that said, maybe a couple of interesting points here. These JBOS flash drives actually did deliver on their promise, and for a cheap kind of no-name budget brand drive, worked pretty well, to the point where I would definitely consider purchasing them again if I needed to do any sort of file delivery in mass quantity. Number 2, maybe it doesn't always pay necessarily to go for that big name branding or not getting the value you expect or thought you might. And number 3, it takes forever to copy large files onto USB 2.0 flash drives. That I've definitely now learned. So maybe this video has been of some help to you. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if it has. This one's maybe a little more in the tech realm, but I definitely plan on doing more tech and video related content going forward. That is all I have to say. So thanks for watching.